Hello and welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. We're at episode 784. It's not on the header of the doc here.
Correct.
It's July 31.
That got broken.
Yeah, it's fine. It's July 31. It's the last day of July. Last day of the year.
Best day of the year.
Oh, sorry. Best day of the year. 2024. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Brett Vance Broomberg.
And I'm Kent Burgess.
Quiet Kent.
There's 4 of us this week. There was only 3 last week, but we have improved things by 33%. And now we have 4 panelists. Jeremy is still on some sort of extended vacation somewhere. He's probably...
Why would anybody take a vacation during CrowdStrike?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Interesting.
I think he probably just fell over somewhere.
That time off was pre-approved, or it certainly would not have happened. Oh, sorry, guys. I'm on a boat drinking beer and not answering my calls. So we're going to do the show without Jeremy, but we have, Josh, which is important because there's financials to talk about. Josh's favorite subject.
Yay.
And, we also have Brett and Ken and whatever.
But you better put that on the, better put it in the notes, actually.
Put it in the notes. It's story number 1. If you don't, here's the rule, Brett. You're new around here.
All right.
If you don't
that's true. Yep.
If you don't put financials on the list, Josh will just start talking about them, and it will become the number 1 story.
It will.
Okay.
So,
well, let's just fix that right now.
Yeah, don't fight it. Just let it happen. It will eventually end.
I don't know what's going on with that.
You can support
Yes,
PC Perspective and all we do here by going to patreon.com/PCPer. That's PCPER. And we want to thank some patrons this week, don't we, Brett?
We absolutely do. Leading off the pack this week is probably one of my favorite names is Northern Rage. That's a great name. I kind of like it. Next up, we've got Goals Camp. He's really coming on strong this week. He's like one of those horses that you see like leap ahead during a part of the race and just passes everybody at the finish line. So that's Goals Camp this week. He's doing really well. Let's hope he comes around for another lap. This one's really good too. Stained Glass. Great. Or Stained Class. Sorry. He's also it's like
Stained Class.
Actually,
Stained Class. That's
Stained
the name
Class.
of the horse.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the name of the horse.
Also the
right in there with
name
Goals Camp, kind of
Judas
a 1-2
Priest's third
finish.
studio album, Stained Glass.
Glass or class?
Stained Class. Stained Class.
Stained Class.
Okay.
It could be a stain on the class, although I'm going to go with the horse. I'm in this whole horse racing thing. I don't know how far I'm going to go with this, but I'm just going to stay with it for now.
No.
And Stephen could go either way. That PH always confuses me whether somebody wants to be called Stefan or Stephen. But anyway, Stephen J. Staying
Steven.
with us. Stephen, could it be? I don't know, but he's staying with us. So appreciate that for staying on board. And finally, finishing up today, special message from Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we'd like to really appreciate our friend Snoo. Not death by snoo, but Snoo, like almost like Morgan Mindy. Nanu. What was the thing he did with his fingers? I can't remember. Nanu. Anyway, Snoo, thank you. That even kind of rhymed. Thanks.
It is. It's like, it's like almost like weather. What's happening outside? Oh, well, it's snooing. That could be. We're having a moment of snoo. Not going to work today. It's too much snoo.
What's snoo with you?
Oh, see? There's all kinds of stuff.
Okay, Josh, you're back.
Me.
And did you eat this week? Do you want to talk about it?
I don't really want to talk about it. It was a special day today. I got ruined by something mechanical. There it was, going up to Born in a Barn. Closed for unforeseen mechanical issues. Sorry for the inconvenience. Did they not realize how much they inconvenienced me perhaps if they would realize that, they would open up. But no, this is not the case. So there's no barn in the barn, no burger.
Josh,
Do they
guess I'll
ever
have to eat
close
dinner.
for predicted mechanical issues? Or are they only
from the way
closed
this is
unforeseen?
written, this was predicted because it says closed for unforeseen mechanical issues. Now, if they had said closed due to unforeseen mechanical issues, I would believe that they had found that out after the fact. But they were closing
I
in
see where you're
advance
going.
for unforeseen
Maybe.
mechanical issues to follow,
Maybe.
perhaps.
Well, I don't
Showing an
recognize
unusual-
the plastic backing behind that. So I wonder if something terrible exploded.
Who is this? Is
It's like
you,
the place
Josh?
is
Who
wrapped
is
in
this?
that.
This guy has
that's
a
my friend
goatee.
Bill.
Okay,
No,
I was
that's
gonna
my
say, this is
friend
not Josh.
Yeah.
Is any of this real? Is this even? Excuse me. Is this even born in a barn?
Yeah, it
Kind of
is.
looks like Louis
Are
C.K.
you even Josh Walrath? Is this an imposter?
No, that's my friend Bill.
Okay.
He's meeting me today there and sent me that, so I didn't
Yeah.
even go.
He's like, oh, thanks, Josh, for recommending this place. You bastard.
yeah, way to go.
Well, Josh, I hope you
Me.
want to talk about something. You know what? If you can't talk about burgers, let's talk about AMD's latest quarter.
Well, we had two major releases today. Not today, but this week. AMD and ARM. ARM is a little overshadowed, but as we'll find out later, it shouldn't be because. But let's get into AMD first. They announced revenue of $5.8 billion, which is up from last 2 quarters. I'm sorry, just the last quarter. But they made about in net around 255 million, which is not bad for them. Their biggest growth was in data center. It grew like 114% year over year, I believe. But anyway, their data center has exploded, and that is a combination of solid double-digit growth in EPYC's server chip shipments, but their AI stuff, their Instinct, it is going gangbusters, and we expected, at least AMD expected to have billion-dollar quarters with AMD Instinct alone, and they're expecting continued growth throughout the rest of this year and into 2025. And considering how Jensen Huang and that Zuckerberg guy were talking about AI, everybody's really worried about being able to get hardware that's going to effectively run it. They think this is like Internet 2.0. The amount of usage cases that we're going to have for AI stuff. And I know in the past, I've talked extensively about machine learning and how for data management and analysis, it's absolutely key. But they're also, looking at large language models. Google has its little Google AI that will, you ask it a question and it'll AI a summary of what the stuff that you're possibly looking at. But it wasn't just the data center that was doing. Their client was very solid as well. It grew, pretty solid year on year. Again, 50%, which is pretty darn spiffy for, and that's just CPUs and mobile. And that was the release of the 7000 series has been out for a while now. Intel's issues with how much power they're eating, as well as how their chips are eating themselves, has proved to be, significant motivation for AMD to sell a lot more stuff. And now we've got the 9000 series coming out here shortly, as well as another AM4 chipset, the 5800 XT and 5900 XT. 7 years of AM4, and we've got at least one more release in hand. AMD also released their Strix, their new mobile part with the NPU, and that again has turned out to be a very, very solid part. 12-core, 24-thread mobile comprised of their regular Zen 5 and Zen 5C chips. So instead of Intel giving us E-cores, AMD is giving us a full functionality C cores, and they're a little bit more power efficient, and even more so, they're space efficient. They're much smaller CPU cores than the regular because they're not designed to interface with 3D V-cache. So, very, very, very solid quarter for AMD. They're expecting next quarter to be a little bit better at around the $6.7 billion plus or minus $300 million. They're not making, their net is still a little bit rough. They had some charges in this last year. And I guess, two things we should talk about. Their semi-custom gaming has kind of fallen off a cliff. I mean, it's more than made up for with Epic and AI stuff and client, but we're still in the middle of the Xbox Series X and S, as well as the PS5, and they're just not selling as much as they used to. And so those royalty figures and whatnot from semi-custom has gone down. I mean, there's a ton of handholds that I'll use AMD semi-custom, but those are kind of niche market products. I wouldn't really say that they're prime movers. So they still do some business, but it's not the big thing. And also, finally, their FPGAs, they swallowed up Z-Links a while back, and that continues to be a tough market. It's when they got a hold of that company, they were doing about 1.2 billion a quarter. Just Z-Links itself, and now it's dropped down into the 800 millions. So it's a challenging time, and in ways it kind of reminds me of when AMD bought ATI way back in the day. They bought it for a lot of money, and the value kept going down and down, and they took financial hits, and it just was not a very positive thing for a lot of years. And I don't think it's going to be as bad as that, but it certainly seems like, they bought at a premium, and maybe it was a panic buy. I don't know, but it's going to take a while for them to kind of get back on track. So yeah, AMD expecting 6.7 billion and around 300 to 400 million in net revenue. So yeah, good times at AMD. They don't have. I mean, they're hitting 50% margins, which is really good. GAAP wise, non-GAAP is something like 54%. And again, for AMD and being a fabless semiconductor anymore, that's pretty good numbers. Not like Nvidia numbers, who's damn near approaching 70% margins with them being able to just print out gold from TSMC. Probably worth more than gold, what they're getting from TSMC. So, any questions you guys had with that particular result?
Nope.
No questions. You were very thorough and
Nope.
explained it clearly, sir.
Oh, I don't know about clearly, but and
More
ARM
money
also announced
is
that.
better.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and
that's what
they've got those
I got that.
funky, like Nvidia has their funky financial quarters do not match the dates that they're actually released. So this is Q1 fiscal year 2025. They are just short of $1 billion in revenue. Now, the thing to remember about ARM is they don't actually have physical products. And it's all licensing and royalties. And this year, licensing, at least this last quarter, was huge. So $939 million, revenue up nearly 40% year on year. So the company is continuing to grow. And again, they are some of the foundational members of a lot of the AI stuff, because NVIDIA utilizes ARM technology. Qualcomm, with their NPUs, it's based on ARM. Apple, their stuff that they're going to release, again, ARM-based. Their non-GAAP revenue was something like 400 million, but when you start doing GAAP, it's like 233 million. And remember, GAAP is generally accepted accounting principles. Non-GAAP is who the hell knows. They just throw numbers at the wall and see what sticks. Okay, it's not that bad, but sure sometimes sees it. But they made as much net as AMD did. And so, yeah, they're doing very, very well with their model. They're shipping, well, their partners are shipping billions of chips a year. And again, they got a lot of money from licensing this last quarter, and usually the majority of their money is from royalties. So it was kind of a nice little boost for them. And because they put out so many licenses, quarters following will slowly see those royalties build up from these new licenses. So ARM is again really a solid company. They're being run very well. They've got design groups all around the world. They iterate constantly on a yearly basis, and I mean the iterations are typically 15 to 20% higher performance across the board with their products, and they're keeping up. Their ARM V9 is fully 64-bit with lots of bells and whistles in there that you can add in, and also you can create your own accelerators if you want and attach them into the C6, I think it's called, bus. But yeah, ARM is doing well. They're riding the AI waves just as much as NVIDIA and AMD. And yeah, we're supposed to find out about Intel soon. And this is one of the first times I think I've seen that Intel did not announce before AMD. And considering recent news, I'm not sure that's a good thing, but we'll see.
Let's move to the PC Perspective news desk, and we have to talk about Intel again. We're going to talk about it every week until there's some kind of fix or, some kind of settlement for this issue. So if you look at this article from The Verge from July 26, there is no fix for Intel's crashing 13th and 14th gen CPUs. Any damage is permanent. Here are the answers we got from Intel. So it just sounds like, oh, it's defective. We don't have a fix for it. If your CPU starts to exhibit these symptoms, it can't be repaired. So you'd think, okay, well, they're just going to do a mass recall. And don't you think the enthusiasts would want that Intel to foster that kind of goodwill?
It would be an excellent outreach opportunity.
Yeah. And apparently that's not happening. Somebody in our YouTube chat pointed out that Tom's Hardware is reporting on the sharks circling. So here we go. Intel class action lawsuit investigation begins for the company's CPU crashing and instability issues. This is from 4 hours ago.
Ooh, so new, so fresh.
Yes. So there's a law firm specializing in class actions and intellectual property. They're now investigating those issues. The fact that it's even affecting 65-watt CPUs now, like it's everything. It's
anything above 65. Not even, it doesn't even have to be an unlocked 65-watt part. Anything that's above 65 is potentially affected. Now, there is a patch coming that, and Intel is saying, mid-August or so, Intel is saying that if you're not affected yet, you're going to be fine. How would you even know, really? Because there's really only under certain circumstances are you going to find the instability. So if you've got a 65-watt or above 13th or 14th gen Intel CPU, I would feel very sus about it right now. And unfortunately, Intel is not accepting them back or really doing much of anything for you. There's no mass recall or anything like that right now. Some site issues with obviously the voltage, but it looks a little bit deeper than that. With
clearly, if mainstream non-K parts are affected too, there's something deeper.
Oh, they say it could be
voltage. Oh, I see.
The
problem is we don't even know.
When they discovered where the problem was, the error actually lies in any part that's 65 watt or above. I believe that was the case. You're not likely to trip that problem in a low volt or low wattage part, but the error nevertheless is still there, or the condition that can cause the instability does exist in low wattage parts. You're not likely to trigger it, though. Sebastian, you were talking about whether or not there were to be any goodwill outreach from Intel to kind of soothe the previous buyers, and you'd wonder if, they've probably halted sales, on these defective chips. No, they didn't halt sales. They're still selling them.
In fact, they're slightly on sale.
Gee,
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah, they want to move some volume of that before they've got to unbox them and blow new microcode onto them. But yeah, that's something.
And if their last 2 generations of parts have instability issues all the way down to the 65 watt level, so it's not even just overclock.
Not that those
K
are showing
stuff.
the problem, but the microcode issue goes all the way down that low. Just want to
Here's a story
that.
from Tech Power Up. Intel will not recall failing 13th and 14th gen CPUs. It's official. They're not issuing a recall, despite the problem being much bigger than initially thought.
Now, a recall campaign is very different from, hey, I've got a degraded, quote unquote, degraded chip under warranty. They will swap you out on that, but they're going to send you probably a broken one in return. I misspeak.
The problem is that this is something where they're like, hey, there's a microcode update coming. Yeah, there's no way to explain this. There's a microcode update coming that will solve the issue for CPUs that haven't shown any signs of stability issues. I'm quoting the article here. However, Intel is not promising that the microcode update will solve the stability issues of CPUs that are experiencing problems. Now, if you're experiencing problems, wouldn't you be hoping, hey, okay, here comes this update. Good. Now my system won't just constantly lock up. And then, Oh,
no. Your problem is essentially burned in, as it were. Yes.
Have you noticed that nobody's really talking about oxidized chips anymore? Now it's ring bus, that they overcooked the ring I actually find the ring bus thing a little bit more viable as
plausible.
An issue. Because watch. If we could really kind of dig into the chip and what kind of levers and whatnot that they have. If suddenly this new microcode goes in here and the ring bus is running at half speed, then that would be a pretty good indicator of where the problem is. So, but yeah, if you're pumping that kind of voltage through, and some of these structures are physically easy to destroy with too much voltage. And, ring bus are not like, 16, individual wires around the entire thing, but in ways it kind of is. But anyway, I could see there be some issues there. I think that's one of the more reasonable kind of speculation about why this is happening.
At some point, there's going to be some easy-to-use utility that you just run, some XE, and it just immediately shows you if your CPU is affected or not.
Burn,
don't you think?
Not burn.
There could just be a very simple, we'll just run this code, because if you have one of the affected CPUs, it'll lock up.
It's probably going to be some sort of set of strenuous instructions designed to elicit the problem. Sure. I believe in that. It might happen.
Like a Prime 95, run Prime 95 with small FFTs and,
That's the problem really exhibits itself in decompressing pack data. And a lot of people are now saying that the best way to detect it is if you've got an NVIDIA graphics card to install the newest NVIDIA driver repeatedly about 4 or 5 times, because the type of unpacking that is written into that instruction set for the driver install is identical to what's happening in the games that is causing the instability in games and other situations. And if you run it, a few times and you get a failure, then you're affected.
Well, I think this next little story really illustrates what developers can do here, and that's to call attention to the problem. If you want to pull this one up.
Yep.
So what's a developer to do? Game developer, a utility maker. Why not throw a warning right up on the screen that says, I'm sorry, you're running problematic hardware. Our application has crashed. we detect that you're running a 13th or 14th gen, CPU. That's probably your problem. Oh my gosh. Is this what Intel really, really has come to? Really? Application developers are now putting up warnings that I'm sorry you're running our app on your hardware. That it seems like a glove to the face.
This is like AMD stuff in the mid 90s with like
It's
the K5, the original K5. I had some issues.
This is something that you never would have expected from Intel. Certainly, you'd think that
no.
some better testing and validation before the product actually.
Yeah.
And you let the problem get so far that the app developers have had to do something this extreme.
And wasn't one of the first game developers who decided to talk about this that they migrated a lot of their servers off of Intel CPUs because they were having something like 100 times the amount of crashes on these servers than they did on comparable AMD based parts. Now these aren't like Xeon and Epic. It's some, I don't know who they hired up to do it, but they're literally 14th and 13th gen kind of enthusiast / server grade hardware, and there were significant crashes, and they just had to migrate away from it and use AMD parts. So I think a lot of users are looking hungrily at the 9000 series, which is kind of funny to hear why the potential reason why the 9000 series were backed off by 2 weeks with the launch.
By the way, what better time than now to take advantage of Newegg's trade-in your CPU program? Now, you know about the GPU trade-ins. Well, now you can trade in your CPU. How exciting. Are they going to check? If there's no current way to check the status of your CPU, let's see what the value here is. Let's go to 13th gen parts. Say you bought yourself a 13900K. How much will you get for that? You'll get $260 for it. And that's not a bad price if it doesn't work.
I think there's a stipulation, in this. And it's, by the way, all of these CPU trade-ins for Newegg are all pinless models. So none of the earlier AMD CPUs with pins, which I have to admit makes a certain amount of sense.
It makes it easier to ship without damage.
That, and they're pretty sure that everybody with a pinned AMD CPU has damaged it. At least a little bit. It's probably damaged it. At least in the first time you put it in, or the removal process, just sending it to them. You probably bent a pin or 10. But anyway, so $260 for a 13900K. I noticed the KF was only going to net you $10 more, which I think is a bit of a ripoff. I think they could have thrown in a little bit more for the KF. What are you going to do? But here's your outlet. Newegg has provided an outlet for moving over to Team Red. Trade in your CPU today. Get off of that funky Intel platform. Go Team Red today.
And a follow-up to last week's mention of the Ryzen 9000 delay, which is a week to 2 weeks out from the original release date. Here's a story from Extreme Tech, and this has been making the rounds on social media. This picture here. The real reason for the 9000 delay, could it be something as simple as a typo on the heat spreader? Ian Kutcher says it was. Look at this one. Ryzen 9 9700X. That should be a Ryzen 7 part. And I think Ryzen 5 parts were also labeled Ryzen 9. So that would explain it. So it wasn't a silicon issue, which of course it wasn't. I kept saying silicon last week, I think. And if you can't respin silicon this fast, I was thinking it was a packaging issue, but it's just, it could be as simple as a silk screening issue.
Yeah, they'll go back and re-laser etch those chips and have the correct numbers.
Come on, Josh. Why can't they put a sticker on it?
I know.
You know those old systems that have the warranty sticker on?
Just put it right on there. Why not? Let's put it right on there. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
it's hilarious to me that any kind of mistake would have happened at all, because this is the savior of the enthusiast space. Brand new, faster AMD CPUs coming right when Intel just falls on their face.
Couldn't have timed it.
It's perfect. And then there's a delay over a typo. It's so AMD. It's just so AMD.
Snatching victory from the jaws.
They're probably just like, wait, how many of those have been packaged? Dang it. Okay. All right. Well, start erasing. There's going to be like X's through it, and then they're going to just write it down below.
Yeah, somebody's got a Sharpie.
Just sell them for a slight
someone's
discount.
in a factory.
No one would care.
Yeah.
Scott suggests a thermal heat sticker. I'm like, just do that.
Now with pre-applied thermal compound.
Yes.
It's even better than ever before.
Yeah.
And speaking of Ryzen 9, the 9950X may actually hit 6 gigahertz, topping single core performance charts. Don't worry about that 13th or 14th gen letdown from Intel. Like, I wanted a 6 gigahertz part though. Well, AMD has you covered, because even though the Ryzen 9 9950X has a 5.7 gigahertz max boost and a default TDP of 170, though of course there's this whole PPT thing where it targets a higher power draw. I'm thinking we could enhance the performance a bit. I don't know if it's just overclockers who are doing this, or if there's a way to configure this.
Early engineering access looks like they could push this one a little bit.
I wonder if this is like an easy like PBO tweak, or if
they have that in the chart. The PBO is a little bit below this OC number. See, they've got a label. It says
PBO question mark. Do they know if it is? Anyway,
I don't know that anybody knows.
I don't know if anybody has these CPUs yet.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. If they come even close, it's like, look, we're close. We're almost 6 gigahertz, and overall the performance is better. And also, by the way, we don't have any crashing issues.
Wasn't this kind of the range that the Intel Tejas was supposed to be? Was it Tejas?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Supposed to be running at.
Yeah,
that it was going to be the Pentium 4 enhanced, or after Prescott before Conroe changed their mind on where really they should go. So
the future of NetBurst was just go to the moon with clock
10
speeds,
gigahertz.
That would solve the latency problem, the problem with the just gargantuan pipeline length. How many? Wasn't it like 24
like 20 stage?
Yeah, it was ridiculous, the number of stages. Windows 11 July update breaks BitLocker and forces recovery. Is this a insecurity corner story, or is this just mainstream news?
No, they meant to do this. I mean, I guess it's not necessarily a security problem. It's that, Microsoft sent out an update and then went, our bad. If you've got the upgrade to, it's the KB, blah, 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 blah. It ends in 442. And it applies to Windows 11, 22H2, and 23H2. So BitLocker included, right? But it's a third-party app. So, maybe they feel free to break that occasionally. You're going to actually have to go into recovery with your recovery key. And if you don't have that, I don't know what you're going to do. But if you've applied this, you're going to need to move through recovery. If you have accepted this upgrade but have yet to reboot, and maybe a lot of servers or a handful of servers fall into that category, don't reboot until they fix this, until you get the next update, which potentially doesn't break BitLocker. Otherwise, you're in a bit of a situation.
Can't you disable then BitLocker before you reboot?
Interesting call. Perhaps you can. Not enough data right now.
Should.
Yeah. Maybe you should.
If your computer's on a domain, getting that BitLocker, code is easy. You just go into the domain controller and look it up for that machine. But if you're an individual who, prizes their privacy, he better have that USB key or a number handy.
Or some other way to recover it. So this is the July update for Windows 11. And the update ends in 442. don't apply until they come up with the next one.
It's a good thing that nothing mission critical here is on this, because that would be.
Oh. Nice.
Nice. A little humor there. A little blue screen humor.
I think we are. And I don't even think you had to mute anybody. I think we all went with it.
I didn't mute anybody. All right.
I was just writing down his recovery ID key.
Golf clap all around. Well played.
Yes.
Well played.
Yes. All right. An important story we obviously need to cover here at PC Perspective. The Drive website is reporting that the Tesla Cybertruck PC is real, and it can play games. Games the real one was supposed to, but didn't. Look at this. It looks like the innards of a laptop crammed inside. This actually makes sense as a computer case a lot more than it makes sense as an actual vehicle.
It appears that the actual computer case, the truck that fits on your desktop, could potentially be converted from an RC car of sorts. And they've added the cutouts for the ports, as you can see in this clip that Sebastian has on screen right now, where the power and HDMI and USB is situated. That's about, like you said, laptop parts, Radeon 780M. Was it Ryzen? Has up to a Ryzen 7 8845HS and terabyte SSD, M.2 SSD, I should say.
And seats. There are seats inside.
The wheels turn, on this.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is
they're not.
Which is kind of why.
Look how small those screws are.
It is mentioned.
So
the GPU is the same one in the very successful Asus ROG Ally.
Okay.
So that's kind of the level we're at.
Is this just lighting, or maybe like little servos that control the wheels? Can you drive your computer around with a remote control?
I believe that there is some sort of motorization to this, and I can tell you the lights actually function. The tail lights and headlights do actually work. There's at least a picture of them on at one point. Unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be any way to control them. But it does appear to be based on an actual RC car.
So they found a Cybertruck toy and they just crammed a laptop in it.
I think the next story is really the most telling. If you kind of zip down to the comparison chart of the add-on to this one, it's an important comparison.
Okay. It is, and leave it to video cards to make it, because this is in the world of things that we were promised and never received. Is there anything more infamous than the KFC PC? And clearly, let's see here. Do they have a side-by-side?
Yeah, okay, they do. Go. There it is right here.
The KF console never released. Though the chicken chamber, that's a feature you'll probably never see. I wonder if do we have the technology to make that happen? You could just put an air fryer
I hope
right?
so. I hope so. Yeah, let's see that combination.
So the processor in the Cybertruck PC, so that's an 8845HS, 54 watt configuration, and $400 coming next month somehow. And the custom one that we were just looking at, just custom AMD Zen Plus and RDNA 2, that doesn't sound very compelling. That sounds like
that's
an
the
older
actual
APU.
Car.
Oh, yeah, the actual car.
The full-size actual human sit in it car.
Okay.
So see the comparison here? It's the model PC compared to the computing power of the actual full-size vehicle. It's valid. I think it's a valid comparison.
So you're saying a $400 home-built computer inside of a toy is more powerful than the Cybertruck?
It's actually 8.3 teraflops versus 10 teraflops. And the speed of the model is essentially 0 because it is not really self-propelled. While the Cybertruck can reach speeds of up to 130 miles an hour.
Oh, and safely too, and in great luxury and comfort, no doubt.
And the price tag on the Cybertruck is, of course, slightly different than the PC. So it's $100,000 for the Cybertruck itself and $400. I have to admit, totally separate class, but still.
They do seem to be different product categories.
Yeah.
Overpriced behemoths of an automobile that was promised at $50,000, $45,000, and then came out at 80 plus. Most people pay 100 or more. There's no
I think the equalizing
water sealing. There's no proper drainage for it. You can't take it through a car wash.
No, two things here. One, the equalizing factors, they've both released in 2024, not a coincidence. And secondly, I just heard this story from some people at work that are saying that raccoons are actually attacking the tailgate of the truck because its resemblance to a trash bin is so striking that the raccoons think that there's delicious treats inside. That's actually true from what I understand.
It actually is a trash bin lid.
Let's move to In Security Corner, where our top story is another CrowdStrike update. 97% of CrowdStrike systems are back online, and that was published on the 26th.
Yeah, that was a few days ago. Now, that sounds like a big number. I mean, 97%, that's pretty good. It's a good score on pretty much any test. Oh, wait, that was 8.5 million systems. So you'll have to excuse, as of a few days ago anyways, the roughly 250,000 systems that are still offline because of the CrowdStrike situation. So, but they've got so many engineers that are working overtime to bring all this stuff back online. And, they're sending out $10 Uber certificate coupons to people because they're really sorry about it. And unfortunately, that's kind of true. But this incident has obviously surfaced. Can Windows continue in this way with this level of, oops, somebody made a mistake inside the kernel space or ring zero? Should this kind of thing be allowed? Well, I actually did a little research on this and come to find out one of the reasons that Microsoft can't necessarily close off this space is due to European regulations. That the last time I think they tried to kick a lot of software out and remove the ability of certain software to have an unfettered view to the machine, its devices and all the processes running on it, that would have removed certain bits of software, and it was seen as an anti-competitive move by Microsoft. So they were actually prevented from shutting off the ability for third-party programs to have access essentially to kernel or ring zero space. I found that sort of interesting. I'm not sure. I believe that's actually true. Somebody can double check me on that one, but that was my understanding based on what I read. But I think that they'd like to be able to close off that space because something's got to change. Clearly, we can't have a situation like just what happened with everything going offline. There's this sort of famous cartoon. It's a Simpsons one that everybody has written the meme over of, where Bart is admitting to a certain problem that he's done, and Homer is saying it's not the biggest problem yet. It's like there's always a bigger issue. Was Bart was really sorry about he's caused a particular issue, and Homer's saying there could be a bigger one. So this is just a precursor to potentially some other issue unless changes are made. That's my 10 cents on it. But they promise they'll fix things, sort of, if they can.
And we brought up the EU thing last week, and it's just...
okay, so that is true. I did read that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they're so concerned about anti-competitive behavior from Microsoft, because if you lock down that kernel, then you're going to have a monopoly on that kind of kernel level access. That would make these security programs so useful. How useful is it to sell a security solution if Microsoft and only Microsoft has access to the kernel?
That's part of it right there. Exactly.
And guess what? There's not a huge market for, there is a market for security software on the Mac, but it's not really all that necessary. And I think a lot of Mac users don't even worry about things like an antivirus.
Their kernel got locked down. That's what happened in the Mac space.
So if only Apple has access to their kernel, then there's nothing. I don't know. Anyway, Mac users were not affected by CloudStrike.
It wasn't an Uber ride that CloudStrike was giving out as a "we're sorry." It was an Uber Eats coupon, a $10 coupon saying, "Ooh, our bad." And I think there was an estimate that the damage across the industry was approaching like $6 billion. But here's a $10 Uber Eats coupon.
They know that a certain percentage of those will never be redeemed, and then Uber probably cut them a deal where they're paying pennies on the dollar for it. So, sorry, Josh.
Delta said that they lost $500 million just from that.
I'm shocked it wasn't more, considering how many people were getting full refunds and free transfers. And
I wonder if any of these companies have legal grounds, or if there is something in the terms of service that's like, yeah, you're using our service, but if we cause a problem, you can't do anything.
Probably. But they got a discount by agreeing to that, so it's fine.
Yeah. And they get to order something from Uber.
Or bad. Are you hungry?
You hungry? Here's barely enough money to buy something for one person.
Yeah, not really.
If your office was affected.
There is a fix to this potentially, and the next little sub-story on this one just nails the heart of this one, I think.
What?
Really
this one that has a Mac logo it's a padlock?
Yes. Yes, so Microsoft is starting a campaign to make Windows security more Mac-like after the CrowdStrike. So as we just mentioned a few minutes ago, that the Mac kernel is far more locked down than the Windows kernel. And this is more difficult to happen in Mac space because of that. Not that, crap can't happen. It does. But at least not in this exact manner, because the kernel is really locked out in Macdom.
What I mentioned, Brett, last week, and I wish you'd been there because we could have had fun on this topic. But
so much fun.
I said it's hard to get into Apple systems to do anything, to run the software you want to run yourself. So of course it's going to be harder for, anyway.
It reminds me of that allow button that they made fun of us some time ago with.
Josh brought that up. Or no, Josh wasn't there.
Yeah, but we had talked about it. The PC and a Mac.
Yeah,
where he was flanked by the Secret Service guys. Do you really want to do this? Yes.
Yeah.
Do you really want to do this?
The Mac essentially has adopted a variant of you need to go into your security control panel and allow unfettered access to your hard drives in order for this to operate. And it isn't a standard way. Sometimes that you see that in the applications doing it and triggering it. Sometimes you got to go in afterwards in the Mac one. So it's a little bit disjointed in the Mac space right now and how to handle that problem.
So I'm sure we can all agree that making everything in life more Mac-like is the solution. And clearly, hey, Brett's back, everybody. He's back. And
there's a Mac story this week, obviously.
Yeah, of course. All right, next up, from Security Affairs, a crafty phishing campaign targets Microsoft OneDrive users. Oh, no.
I know.
It already feels so scammy, and now they're actually using it to scam people.
Imagine receiving an email with an urgent, you must open this in order to comply with, XYZ, or it looks official in some way. So you're prompted to open this OneDrive link, which in turn throws up an image that appears to be an accessibility error. And the error condition, they actually grabbed one that was, people are used to seeing the error code, as well as the sort of links that go off of the update actually take you to legit Microsoft pages to sort of define what the error was and the ability to resolve it. Well, clicking resolve it essentially gives the malware the ability to download a program. It extracts a bunch of crap on your hard drive, opens a backdoor, registers with a command and control system. Essentially, they own you after this. And it's so easy for unintended consequences on this and users who just don't understand what the heck is going on and stop clicking links in your email. For God's sake, stop clicking links in your email. If they say to go to a website, open a browser as a separate window and type it in. Just don't click on links in the email. Stop it. It's word of the day. Stop it. That's 2 words.
Yeah. By the way, this is the part of Insecurity Corner where we talk about how Secure Boot is completely boned.
Knackered.
Well, knackered means tired. Okay. I'm sure it's more than tired.
Yeah.
Fudge. Okay. No. From Ars Technica, Secure Boot is completely broken on 200 plus models from 5 big device makers. Keys were labeled "Do Not Trust." Nearly 500 device models use them anyway. This is great. This is classic Insecurity Corner fodder.
It is. It's very classy. Now, there's 2 separate issues going on here. One was an inadvertent upload to Git, which is a great place for people who are, just trying to mine for whatever the engineer forgot to remove from their Git pull, and then their sync. So there's essentially a rootkit that's been built off of this that dives right into the UEFI, which is in the BIOS, where they were most afraid of this after in 2012, a proof of concept from a Chinese researcher showed that this was possible to infect the BIOS level. So an industry consortium got together and made this secure boot. It's always amazing to me when the security mechanism is the gateway for the malware, but that's sort of the case here. Because if you don't protect these root keys, say post them to a Git repo protected by a 4-digit password, this is what happens. You essentially allow the malware makers to code sign their malware, and any way they can get it onto your machine is now accepted because it's one of the root certificates that's essentially hard coded into the device, and easy for the taking. It was uploaded to Git, but Sebastian mentioned the other one. AMI is obviously a purveyor of fine BIOSes everywhere. What they did in order to show end companies, users, how to set up their BIOSes, they included default keys with issuer labels that literally said, "Do not trust, do not distribute." So of course they did. The root keys to these are also well known and easily exploitable in the exact same purposes. So that completely obliterates any of the purpose reason behind secure boot, with the malware makers capable of signing their code with the trusted keys. And it's going to take some period of time before new BIOSes are made that swaps these root keys out, or these root certificates out, I should say. Public key encryption, it's great until you let your secret key leak, which is what they did multiple times. But it's the little guys that are affected. HP, Dell, not, okay, yeah, those are the big guys, yeah.
Oh,
they all did.
Okay.
Supermicro, purveyors of fine server boards everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might not have heard of Supermicro, maybe you have, but they make a crap ton of server boards.
In China.
Not a place where you want, but not a place where you want exploitable malware in your BIOS. Gigabyte, you might have heard of them, Intel, Acer, those guys.
All right, let's move quickly through some gaming quick hits from Engadget. The long-awaited Fallout London fan mod is finally here, and of course, you'll have to downgrade your version of Fallout 4 to use it because of the reasons we talked about in previous podcasts. So, get excited about the downgrade because the mod wasn't updated to support the current version of the game that's on Steam.
But it is on GOG. Pre-patched version of Fallout 4 is on GOG.
Oh, that's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, long-awaited mod is available, but maybe, you don't own the game yet, or you don't want to bother going backwards and patch your most recent version. You can smoothly move to the next story. It is in fact available on GOG for 60% off, and this is the one that'll run that free Fallout London mod. It's $17 or $16 or something like that. Very affordable right now if you want to try out Fallout 4 and especially the new the London free mod. Took them 5 years to build that mod, by the way.
That's dedication.
Yeah. And of course, they essentially got thrown this curveball right practically at the end with the incompatible update.
Yeah.
They'll probably rework it, or they'll come out with a patch to apply at some point. But if you don't want to wait, have at it right now. GOG, $16.
Next up in Gaming Quick Hits, Stalker 2 has been delayed again, this time until November. This is, according to this story at Engadget, this is getting close to Duke Nukem Forever territory at this point. Oh, come on. Could it be? Let's see.
Yeah.
14
Longest
years.
delay in
Okay.
history was 15 years, Duke Nukem
Oh.
Forever. This
Wow.
Stalker 2, 14 years in the making. So, it's getting there.
Are we sure about that? Because I would think that Half-Life 3 would be the longest.
Wow.
That's just a war.
Oh.
Nobody's actually said they were making it yet and then just not done it. Well,
Wait. Weren't we supposed to get
Maybe-
episode 3?
yeah.
Yeah.
The real
Episode
question
1
I
and episode
have, and Jeremy, I never know when he's being serious or facetious or sarcastic. I want to know what the hell is going on with the Goat Simulator universe, because we have Goat Simulator and Goat Simulator 3, and I thought, oh, it's just a joke that they called 2 3. It's perfect. It's on brand. And then Jeremy was trying to explain to me that there was a Goat Simulator 2, but it's very complicated. And then if you try to research this, people seem to enjoy BSing in like forums and on Reddit and things, and like, oh, there was a 2. Like, yeah, it was this and it was this. And they just try to get people going, and there's arguments about it. Did it ever exist? Was it technically like a DLC for Goat Simulator? I don't know. That's
Sounds like one of those if you know moments.
right. Later,
know.
we'll find out it was Japan only, and it would be Goat Simulator: The Lost Levels, as part of like the greatest hits compilation or something.
Yeah. And it starred all these crossover video game characters that no one will, you never would have expected. Laura
Do you
Croft.
guys
was in it.
remember what Counter-Strike Condition Zero? They eventually released it, but it was made by, I can't remember. It was one of the Texas developers, and they had the whole game kind of out there, and they submitted it to Valve, and Valve's like, nah, we're just not gonna, we're not gonna do this. Yeah, I mean, I played it. It was not great, but
Shall we move to picks of the week? Josh, do you want to get us started?
Sure. Everybody needs a friend, and they released this for pre-order yesterday, and it's, honest to goodness, one of the creepiest things. It was the movie Joaquin Phoenix was in, Her. Wasn't it a cautionary tale? But it's like the whole thing. I can't remember the entire joke, but some guy wrote a novel, don't do this if you don't want to die. And so we're basing our product on this guy's famous novel. It's just, yeah, Her. I don't get it, but yeah, it's a friend that listens to you all the time and interacts with you by your phone and gives you nice things to read about. And it's AI, supposedly. It's just a little necklace. Doesn't that look kind of just creepy and freaky? You see somebody wearing one of those, and
it's very 2001. If it was red,
Is it voiced by Scarlett Johansson?
No, it is not.
If it was, I wouldn't care about any of the privacy. I'm buying.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so here it is. It says, how much does Friend cost? Friend costs $99 and has no subscription. Oh, no subscription. Nice. Does it require a phone? Yes. Friend functions over Bluetooth and requires an internet connection. So this is just a Bluetooth speaker you wear around your neck for $99.
No, it's a Bluetooth microphone.
Oh, it's a microphone too. Oh, okay. And then the whole thing is really just an app. It's just an app.
And an app. Yep.
It's an app.
There's plenty of places all over the world where you can buy a friend for less than $99.
Wow. Okay.
Oh.
This is a family show.
Yeah.
most of the time.
Somebody already did a parody video called Enemy, and it's actually pretty damn funny. So yeah, go look it up.
Veneto says it's like the Ankh from Logan's Run, which nobody knows what that is. I know what that is.
I know what it is.
You guys know what that is.
You have to be old enough to know what it is.
You got to be old enough.
All right, Jeremy, your
Agutter?
Yeah, wait, Jeremy's not here.
Jenny Agutter. Someone's opening my door.
Kachuk.
That's fine. Brett, your pick. Oh,
You know
I'm
what?
giving it away. Hold on. Let's take two. Brett, your pick.
You know what I always say about monitors? There's really only one resolution that you need. And
Wait
it's
a minute. Wait a minute. This isn't the same resolution.
Ultra. What? Of course it is. I've always loved
You've always said
5120 by 14.
Oh, I see. Okay.
This is I'm in a 1984. I'm in a George Orwell this whole thing every time I bring this up. So my favorite resolution has always been 5120 by 1440. Look at the sale on the Odyssey G9, which we've brought up several times in the podcast. I know that Josh is enjoying G9.
Well, that's the QLED one, not the OLED one.
Yeah, this one has a VA panel.
Yeah,
still,
right. I mean, you can scoff. You can scoff, but for $745, essentially, you're getting a 49-inch Odyssey G9 curved QLED for so much real estate. So,
Brett, why would I scoff at my complete lack of any worry about burn-in?
Yeah, exactly. When you can sidestep the whole OLED burn-in issue.
And honestly, nobody does VA like Samsung. If it's a Samsung panel from South Korea, it is fantastic. Great
Veneto has
static contrast ratio. Oh, he's decided
to say,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, look,
QLED is for Android users.
No. Android phones have had actual OLED panels for many years now. AMOLED. But yeah, this is QLED looks really good. I mean, I found it to be a insulting marketing term, and when I would talk to normal people, they did not understand that there's a difference between QLED and OLED, and the way that the font on the box made the Q look just like an O. That was their solution. Like LG had OLED and they didn't, so they just used quantum dot. Sandwich that between the backlight and the panel, and they were able to market it as what looked like OLED at first glance. But the color saturation is better than LG OLEDs from a QLED VA panel because there's the color volume is higher. Anyway,
colorimetric density or full the spectrum coverage. Anyway, it's a heck of a deal. It's woot.com. Links in the show. Get that up. But go if you want to go look under electronics and monitors and projectors on woot.com. $745 for 49 inches of bliss.
Yes. Oh, speaking of 49 inches of bliss, this next product. Kent, your pick. Please introduce this.
So as I mentioned earlier, I just recently rebuilt my server, and I discovered that the heatsink on the motherboard just really wasn't getting enough airflow. It didn't have enough thermal mass sitting between the CPU cooler and the graphics card to keep the operating system drive down to what I felt was a reasonable temperature under low load. So I picked up this nice little under $10 item from Thermalright on Amazon. And the temperatures have made a huge difference. This is a Thermalright M.2 cooler. It's tall, but it actually fits nicely in a small space.
Is this 48 inches tall?
No, it is not.
It looks massive.
It's actually not that big. It is tall, but yeah.
Scale?
It's tall.
A scale photo? Is there a photo?
Well, I mean, if you can look at the...
Wasn't that a throne sometime in a movie?
Yeah. I don't look at the dimensions. It looks pretty darn big. 86 by 24 by 74 millimeters. Okay. I guess it's not as tall as I was thinking.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, it is tall, but it actually is narrow and short enough to fit in a small gap where you've just got one space between a large CPU heatsink and the back of your GPU, and made a huge difference in the temperatures. And it's dirt cheap, so why not?
It is inexpensive. Thermalright has been knocking it out of the park with the value.
Yeah.
of their products recently.
So that's my pick. Deal with it.
That will do it for this week's episode of the PC Perspective Podcast. I want to thank you for listening, watching, enjoying this refreshing look at the week that was in the world of computer hardware and software. Maybe 13th and 14th generation Intel processors are unreliable. We can't recommend them anymore. We feel sorry for you if you have one of those affected units that cannot be fixed by any possible microcode updates. But, there's new Intel processors around the corner. And now there's never been a better time. Well, there have been other great times to go with Team Green. And of course, by Team Green, we mean AMD. Because AMD processors are green, okay? It's a green logo. It's not red. It's green. So, pop this in there. No instability whatsoever. That's all.